Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Minister Elder Lassiter said we going back this morning. We got a classic every day in every way. By the grace of God, I get better and better every day in every way. By the grace of God, I get better and better. So I have to just share this with you this morning. I've been out of town all week, so I sound a little raspy. Um, I left home Tuesday morning and I got back last night about 9 o'clock. I've been to two different hotels, unpacked, repacked, moved it all again. And the her story for today, I could not figure out how to put it together. No matter how many times I read it, how I tried, I couldn't find a running theme. I said, well, this week we won't have one. So all week, I just said, well, what is the running theme in this story? I couldn't find a running theme. So I had to leave it to Spirit. I said, come, Holy Spirit, come. We won't have one this Sunday. We'll move this back. And I even notified her. I said, I'm going to need you to rewrite it because they give me the information and then I give them the story that Spirit gives to me, but I wasn't getting anything. So, in my humanness, I got a little nervous. So when I came in last night, Bishop said, what we got? I said, we don't have anything. I'm going to go ahead on and go to bed and, we'll do one probably the first Sunday in June. I went to bed at 1:41 this morning. I was getting downloads from Spirit. So I'm thinking I'm preaching in my mind, which I do a lot. I'm thinking I'm preaching. But when I came to a level of alertness and awareness, I realized it's the her story running through my mind. I got up at 1:41 this morning and went to my computer. And at 5 o'clock, I went back to bed. I said, well, Lord, this your stuff. This your story. And this is how you want it told. And so I'm extremely proud of this story because I didn't write it. I had very little to do with it. And on the way to church, I told Bishop, I said, I better read this because I haven't seen it. Spirit just dropped it off this morning. I haven't had a chance to go through this. So I better read this. And I'm telling you, I had less errors than when I'm alert and do it. I said, well, maybe I need to try this. Maybe this is the way to go. But this story is not like any other story that I have ever written. So I know it was Spirit. Let me just shut up and read it. How about that? Okay. I know that's what y'all was thinking. All right. Okay. Her story. I remember Mama. I was born on June 18th, 1958. My parents were married, although my mother was only 17 years old and 17 years and 7 days old. My father was 19 years and 6 days old. You're probably wondering why these ages are significant. Well, both my parents were born in June. I was also born in June, and my sister and brother were also born in June. We started out as a happy little family, both parents and three little children. Our family happiness wouldn't last long, at least not the part that included my father, because my parents divorced when I was only 3 years old. My mother and grandmother raised us. My mother was a legend before her time. I'll tell you more about her in a minute. My grandmother, my mama's mama, and my uncles, my mama's brothers, helped mama raise us. We were loved, we were safe, and we were stable. Well, I'll put it this way. We were poor, but didn't know it. We had everything that we could possibly need and want. My mother was remarkable. No, I really mean it. She was remarkable and unlike anyone else I have ever known. When I was about 6 years old, my mother was involved in a car accident. Not long after that, she was involved in another car accident. The second accident was a lot worse than the first one. This accident was a near death car collision. As a matter of fact, this one was so bad that the people on the scene had pronounced her dead on the side of the road. As God would have it, there was a doctor passing through the scene and stopped to offer his help. He rechecked her pulse and found her to have a very, very slight pulse. He started yelling, "She's alive. No, she's alive. She's alive." And they got medical transport in there. She was transported to the hospital for what would be the beginning of her extensive road to full recovery. I say extensive because her entire body had to be repaired. She had broken legs, arms, and hips. She also had a head trauma and damage to her heart and lungs. She would later tell me that the accident had basically killed her, but she believed that the Lord spared her life because she had those three little children to raise. She made it through, but not before a lengthy hospital stay and lots of rehab. I know it was her strength and determination to make it through, although the doctors, her mother, her brothers, and us kids were there to support. I know it was her inner strength that put her back together again. We moved in with my grandmother, and I can remember seeing my mother lying on the couch at grandma's house in pain, but still recovering from the accident. I remember helping my mother up from the couch. She learned to walk again. She had to learn to eat, drink, and eventually she learned to hug again and to smile. We went to school from grandma's house, and although my mother was still recovering, we didn't miss a day of school. She kept us up and made sure that we had everything we needed. I remember when I was about 10, we moved down the street from my grandmother's house to our own place in Pleasant Manor. My mother used to dress my sister and me in the same outfits, although we certainly were not twins. But one thing for certain, two things for sure. We were clean all the time. My mother was old school, and if she needed cigarettes from the store, we all went holding hands, even though one of us could have completed that task. Mama didn't play that. Mama still wasn't back to work, so if and when we needed clothes, my grandma would help out. But if we needed something special, Mama would make it. She would take her old skirts and make us new skirts. She could and would make us a complete outfit from her clothes. Mama could do that thing. People were none the wiser. They thought we got our clothes from the store unless we told them differently. Our house was the house. Everybody came there, cousins, uncles, friends, everybody. It was only a 3-bedroom house, but on any given day, it held many people. Some would even stay until they got back on their feet. Mama fed everybody. She just had a heart for helping folks. We also had 3 dogs, Tinkle, Fuzzy, and Blackie. Fuzzy and Blackie lived outside, but Tinkle was a house dog. He was our protector. Mama couldn't even get us with the belt unless she put Tinkle in the room and closed the door. By this time, she had started drinking. My mama was the best, but she was a Black woman. Now, Mama did some crazy stuff, and she loved to have fun. I remember Mama had her yellow coat hanging out on the clothesline. Well, she got a call from a sister girl that her yellow coat was spotted on some chick at the food fair. Mama, the sister girl that called her, and another sister girl, for good measure. Remember I told you we had to go to the store holding hands? Well, the 3 of them get to the store and confront this yellow coat thief. The girl said it wasn't Mama's coat, but little did she know that Mama had her name under the tag. "Girl, give me my coat." And right then, right there in the food fair, Mama took her coat off this chick's back. It was a cold day too. I loved going to school. I was smart and I was athletic. I was popular too. My only vice was my mouth. I ran track, was in the pep club, and I loved gymnastics and square dancing. I loved moving my body. In junior high is where I learned to sew and got my first sewing machine for Christmas when I was 13 years old. I was gifted with my hands. My mama's friend, Miss Nellie, realized it and taught me how to crochet. I loved being around older people. I was always around my mama and her friends. I would listen to their conversations and their problems. I guess you could say that I was an old soul. As I got older, I would get into fights and run my mouth. I could really run my mouth and run it boldly. People always thought that I was mean, but I wasn't. I just didn't take no mess. After school, we watched my mother cook. She could cook, and she never used a recipe. Now, my sister was into all that cooking and stuff, but not me. By now, my mother was a heavy drinker. I didn't like that, her drinking, I mean. There were always people over, and my mom would go to their house to drink sometimes. I know that she was masking the pain from the car accidents and the fact that because her injuries had been so extensive, she could no longer work. She tried, but was never really able to get back to work the way she had before the accidents. My grandmother would have to step in sometimes. Actually, it was my grandmother who taught me how to drive, and drive I did. I took her everywhere she needed to go. My grandmother was a custodian, and I would help her clean the school classrooms at Warwick High School. That's how I met Reverend Gray. As I got older, I started getting into it with my mother. I just didn't like the drinking or the smoking either, for that matter. The drinking made her a different person. In my senior year of high school, I got better with my mouth. Not much better, but better. My grades were perfect. I ran track, played basketball, and had activities inside and outside of the school. Right about this time, my mother got her GED and got a job at the Lincoln Park Nursery. She was gifted. My Lord, my God, she could make anything out of anything or even out of nothing. I know that's where I get my skills. As we got older and started working summer jobs, we had to pay rent. And if we didn't, we would hear her mouth. She used the money to put back into the house so that we had what we needed. But who wanted to pay rent? My mother ordered books from the bookselling man who came through the neighborhood. She bought a Bible, medical books, and an encyclopedia because she wanted us to do well. I remember seeing her reading the Bible, and if she had an ache or pain, she would search the medical book for answers. I still have those books. My mother didn't talk about my father. I mean, what was the point? He didn't contribute. She made it do what it do. Her focal point was her kids. She encouraged us. I was always in the newspaper for track and field. I even broke the record for the long jump in my senior year. I was the MVP. I loved it all, even flag football and track and field. I stayed busy because I didn't like the drinking and the smoking at home. I received a full scholarship to Tennessee State University, but I only stayed one semester. I was needed at home. I came back, got a job at Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University. I was back in my mother's house. We still argued because I still didn't like the drinking and smoking. I loved my mom, but I needed my own roof. I met an older guy named Ronnie, and he was it. In 1987, he asked me to marry him. And even after his indiscretion, I forgave him and married him. Mama gave me away at my wedding. My husband and I moved to Maryland, and I still call my mom twice a day to check on her. She was drinking even more now. I'd always wanted twins, but for some reason, my body would never cooperate, and I was never able to get pregnant. The marriage was rocky at least. And in June 1996, I moved back home to Virginia, back to mama's house, where I would stay another year and a half until I got myself together. My mom and I got closer. We would coupon together, we would thrift together. You know, I love a bargain. And I even started a daycare. Mama helped in my daycare. My brother died in 2004. I had never told him that I loved him, but I believed that he knew. He had asked Mama to get saved before his passing and to stop drinking. My mother honored that, and she did stop drinking, although she still smoked. I joined West End in 2005, and not long after, she joined me here at West End. We both joined the culinary ministry. As my mother's health began to fail, she told me that she wanted to stay in her own house. I moved from my townhouse into hers. I helped her with doctor's appointments, her feedings, and her medications. I took her to my sister's house for the weekends so that I could get some rest. One day, I decided to go and shower because Mama was resting and Reverend Gray was there to sit with her. When I came back, Mama was gone. She had taken her last breath. I took her pulse like the doctor had done that day on the side of the road after the accident. I had wanted so badly to say, she's alive, she's still alive. But I couldn't. There was no pulse. She had waited for me to go to the shower before she passed. I have continued to work at West End and take care of the seniors. I still love to decorate, crochet, and sew. God has blessed me with two little girls that live next door, and I care for them most of the time. I did actually divorce in 2020, and I'm living my life differently now, quietly. I dream of going to Hawaii someday. I know it's not too late for that. I come in weekly and clean the church, humming the songs that I grew up listening to. It comforts me. I remember Mama, and I think about her every day. I had lived as far away as Japan when I was married, but I always came back to see about my mama, the way she had taken care of us her whole life. She had been my rock. I have grown a lot of patience over the years, and I'm all the better for it. Although this is my story, it is also my mama's story. I know Mama sees me. I miss you, Glow. I am Sister Debra Williams.